man, thank you for coming on the platform. I truly
No
appreciate you, the
doubt.
work that you done put in, and the work that you're gonna, continue to do. I definitely look forward to it. I know you got to make some moves, so we're gonna kind of jump right into it. Welcome to the show, King.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
Oh yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt. It's an honor. For the viewers who may not recognize you, let them know who you are and definitely where you from.
So I'm Ferrari Sheppard. Um, I'm a professional contemporary artist. Uh, I was born in Chicago, grew up in New York, uh, went to School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Um, I've done quite a bit of bouncing around the world in the short time that I've been here, relatively short time. I've lived on the continent, several countries in Africa, um, Zanzibar, South Africa, Ethiopia, um, and currently I reside in Los Angeles, California. Yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. I'm in Ghana right now, so we just had like a
Okay.
big like an internet shortage. So some things is kind of slow. So if we get disconnected or it freeze up or anything, the stream yard to keep recording you.
Yeah, I definitely know about, that life and where sometimes there's outages and you just gotta deal with it. Yep. How
Oh
long you been
yeah,
out
oh
there in
yeah.
Ghana?
I got in Ghana in January, but I was in Uganda and Tanzania. So I've been to like 20 African countries. I lived in South Africa for a year. So my goal is to live in Africa permanently, but I kind of want to visit because Africa got like almost 60 different countries, you know what I'm saying? And they all different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You know what's crazy is when my assistant showed me, your interest in doing a podcast, man, I was like, this dude reminds me of myself, because before I was known as an artist, I had a blog. This was way back in the day. It was called Stop Being Famous, and it was sort of the same vibe, but and that I lived in different African countries. I was like, man, I got to do this interview because you're on the right path, and I just could feel the good energy that's coming from your movement.
man, I truly appreciate that. Yeah, I was checking out your profile. They were saying you was a journalist at one time. I'm like, dang, that's dope for real. And I gotta
Yeah.
ask you, like, growing up, how did you, get involved in all? Because you like a multi-talented person. You do the journalism, you do the art, you're doing music. Where did all this begin?
Right. So I've always been an artist ever since I've known myself. When I was in kindergarten, I guess I excelled a lot. My mother, at least she tells me that. And my first show actually was at the Art Institute of Chicago when I was in kindergarten. They had a call out for kids who are artists or whatnot, and then they put us on display for however long. I guess it was a month or something like that. Um, and I continue, exploring art throughout high school. It's a little harder for me because at the time, I grew up during the crack epidemic and I was in housing projects. So, there was a lot of distractions going on, to say the least, in terms of just being a young black man and trying to survive the violence and from the police and otherwise. So art became kind of a refuge for me where actually I was a troubled kid, so I don't even know how I made it out of high school because I ditched class so much, not advocating that to kids because but I was a troubled youth. And the only class that I really came to school for was art, like painting. So that was the last two periods. So it would be seventh to eighth period, and I would just stay there until they put me out of the school. And I just remember really being excited about trying new techniques. and it would just be burning in my head all night. Like, I can't wait to get to school tomorrow so I could try this new thing, you know? And it was then in high school where I started winning awards. And, you know, for a kid that's in the hood, like that means everything, because it's somebody saying that that you have something special. Uh, and so my art teacher at the time, it was a teacher, her name was Mrs. Sokoloff, this Jewish woman who was really cool. She was like a mother figure to a lot of us who was going through just problems, you know. She helped me get into the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Like, she helped me put together my portfolio and all of that. So I ended up getting a merit scholarship and a presidential scholarship. So, you know, I attended School at Art Institute. I remember it like it's yesterday, because it was a bit of a culture shock. I grew up around like basically like Puerto Ricans, black people, Dominicans, you know what I'm saying? I didn't have many Asian or white friends. So to go to this prestigious art school, it was, yeah, like I said, it was a culture shock, but I really enjoyed it. um and you know, that started me on my journey, or at least I thought at that time, on my journey towards an art career. Um but what I later found out was that, you know, although the School of the Art Institute, or any art school that you go to, or any school for that matter, is good for teaching you how to communicate and how to think critically, it doesn't necessarily help you in any career endeavor. You know, like, I would ask some of my professors, you know, this is all cool, like all of these theories and art history. I'm like, how do I apply this to real life and make a career, you know? And most, if not all the time, none of my professors had the answer. And you know, later I found out it's because they didn't know themselves, you know. Like, if they knew how the art world functioned, they would be in it and they wouldn't be teaching, you know. Not to disrespect any professor or anything, but I'm saying, like, that's the idea that I had at the time, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I left the School of the Arts till I dropped out in my fourth year because I could no longer afford it. My scholarships had run out, and I was getting all these loans and everything, and it just, you know, it just didn't make sense for me financially to continue down that path. So I dropped out, and I started selling weed. Started selling weed. Don't do that either, kids. But I mean, if you do it, don't get caught. Um, and that kind of allowed me to, you know, it freed me up to work on my practice. And I attempted to become a professional artist at that time. I showed at different places, you know, some places in New York and in Chicago. And people would come to the show, and they would basically eat the cheese and drink the wine, and then they would leave. They wouldn't buy anything, you know. And I just couldn't understand it. I was like, you know, I'm not, what am I doing wrong here? And I didn't understand I needed to build a foundation and to build a portfolio and to get my name out there and everything. But I remember at that time, I think, you know, I was in my early 20s. I said, maybe I need to step away from visual art and get my name somewhere else, try something new. And at that time, it was kind of the dawn of social media, and also the death of the print magazine and print publication. So the internet was definitely taking over, and I had this idea for a magazine, and it, you know, the name Stop Being Famous popped in my mind because it was partially how I felt, in a way that, you know, it was a tongue-in-cheek critique of, you know, celebrity culture and whatnot. Um, but I modeled my persona or myself around a journalist who was active in the 60s and the 70s, or maybe more just the 60s, but his name was Lester Bangs, and he used to write for Rolling Stone magazine. And what made him special was that he became sort of cult icon himself as a figure, because whether he's interviewing, Mick Jagger or Bob Dylan, it didn't matter. Like he was kind of like not, he seemed to be uninterested or impressed with their celebrity. He wanted to know more about who they were as a person, and he would critique that, you know? So that's how I modeled the the interviews that I did around, and it just kind of it caught on like wildfire. Like I had this website that I built myself, and it was kind of quirky, and it got to the point where PR companies started reaching out to me and telling me that so and so has a new movie coming out, or this person has an album coming out, or whatever it may be. And I would be on the job. The only thing I did that for about 8 years. The only thing that stopped that was that I was unable to find a way at that time to monetize. I had people helping me, and they were doing it on the strength because they just was like, we really, loved the idea and the concept, and it had clout at that time. But I knew like it just became harder and more. It became more apparent that it would be challenging to monetize. I tried throwing events and parties. So that was kind of my exit, but that actually led me to everything else that would happen in my life. I became a journalist in that I started to write these op-ed pieces for Stop Being Famous, and they became popular to the point where like The Nation and Huffington Post and these different publications, they wanted me to start writing for them on the subjects of political, geopolitical things. And I actually was sent to conflict zones like Middle East and the West Bank. Yeah, and which was a serious ordeal. It was really serious, but um, yeah, it came a time though where I think that when you're young, you think you could do everything that you ever want to do, and you do think that you have unlimited time. And to a degree, that's a good attitude to have. But that it comes to a point where you just have to focus and say, well, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? And you know, with the war correspondence and the seriousness of a geopolitical uh landscape, like I knew that wasn't anything I wanted to do for the rest of my life. What I really wanted to do was be a painter, and it took me one more career iteration to really realize that, throughout my journalism, I became friends with Yasiin Bey, Most Def. We became creative partners, end up being in a musical group with him called December 99th. We put out one album, one title, and I realized I didn't want to be a musician. You know what I'm saying? It was like that was the dream that I had when I was young. But I fulfilled it, and then I realized I'm like, no way do I want to be 40 and still navigating this abusive um, industry, because the music industry is the most abusive industry that I've ever encountered. Uh, so, just trial and error, man. As a young man trying to find himself, and I finally made it around to becoming a visual artist, and which wasn't easy at all, but nothing worth having is easy to get.
Oh yeah, man. I appreciate you sharing that, man. You dropped so many, gems, man. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to process everything that you were saying. Man, what was it like, if it's okay to ask you, going to these different countries and they got a war going on or they got a conflict, but then you coming from the shy, the Midwest, the reputation that they have. I'm from Cleveland, so I know, but just
Right,
how
right.
did that affect you as just a person and an artist and a journalist?
So like, because I these two cities that I call myself like a shy Yorker, these two cities, they couldn't be more different than each other. It's certain similarities, but like New York and Chicago have a totally different culture. Um, Even though New York is trying to act, not trying to, I'm not, don't say, starting to act like Chicago in terms of like the gang culture and everything, because like in the early 90s and 90s, wasn't too much. It was very little gang activity, you know. But Chicago is a different animal, you know. Like I've seen so much violence, and uh, I've been shot at on 5 different occasions. Thank God that you know I made it through. Um, so I think that when you experience that level of violence and tension, not only does it traumatize you, but I think that it numbs you to a large degree. Um, and so being in a conflict zone felt, unfortunately, it was very extremely familiar. You know, not only that, but there was certain oppressive regimes out there that, you know, I was accustomed to growing up, where I grew up, where it's like as a young black man, you don't belong anywhere. Like, you know, you walking down the street, you at the park, you at the gym, you whatever. You're not supposed to be there. Police say, get out of here. What you doing? Let me get your name. Blah blah blah. You say, what the, like, I'm a young person. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, go hide under my bed? Like, you know. So it's really a second class citizenry, you know. So that was extremely familiar to me, you know. So I think that's why I was able, wherever I am in the world, I'm able to, not to say I've never been afraid. You know, I think fear is healthy, and it's a sign that you are alive and that you want to be alive. You know what I'm saying? But whether it's the townships outside of Cape Town or wherever, like I have a good radar for street radar for trouble, and you know, to understand, you know, just to respect people in their position and where they are in life. You know, you don't go fly and wear all of this jewelry going to Brazil, you know, certain areas of Brazil, or going, you know what I mean? Like it's disrespectful to do that because there are people who, you know, who don't have shoes. So, you know, what's the message that you're sending to them if you don't respect that? So I was able to navigate, and I had a great, you know, my experience those 4.5 years that I lived on the continent was some of the greatest of my life. At the time, I was with my brother from another mother, Most Def Yasiin Bey, and we were exploring the continent together. You know, he's about 10 or some, maybe 11, some years older than me. So he's like a bigger brother. Uh, so you know, he was also learning and growing too, along with me. You know, and there was a time where I felt like I wanted to completely just live in on the continent, and you know, thinking about it in a from a logistical standpoint, like I realized how difficult that really is. Like you have to have your paper together. You know, you gotta be, you know, your money gotta be right. You know, you have to have no debt in the US really, because you're gonna be beholden to the tax man. Um, so it's really, you know, you have to have a plan. So yeah, but I think that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. If it's all right, I want to ask you a little bit more about the December 99th project because man, just to be able to even, how can I say, even meet most Def, because Yasiin Bey, I should say, that's some people's favorite MC on the planet
Mhm.
Earth. Now you only, like you said, you got to establish a relationship with them, make music with them. Like, how did you go from just making music to connecting with him? I know you was doing the journalism thing, but was you always
Yeah,
making
like
beats prior to that, or you just
nah,
started
so
at that time?
yeah, so basically he reached out to me via email, you know, and he was like, man, I'm a fan of the stuff you do. And he was like, I want to build with you. And at the time I was kind of confused, 'cause I'm like, do you want me to like interview him or like what? You know, so we hopped on the phone, and you know, we just clicked, man. From that moment on, we stayed on the phone for like 4 hours, just, you know, laughing and talking and being like, yo, blah blah blah. So I actually was invited to this conference in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, at the African Union, and I invited him. You know, I asked them if it was okay if he came, and they actually provided for him to come with his mother at that time, Umi, rest her soul. Uh, and you know, we met on the streets of Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, at the Friendship Hotel. You know what I'm saying? And then we were inseparable basically because it was like I finally found someone who had a like mind with me, same business. You know, in terms of what we want to do, in terms of business. Um, and Yeah, we went about it. And that was the thing. He didn't know I made music because I really didn't take myself seriously as a musician. Because I used to just I would make beats and play instrument because I play all the instruments, but it was like just something that I did to pass the time. And you know, he actually heard one of the beats that I had. He was like, "Yo, who is that?" And I'm like, "That's me." And from that moment on, we started recording, and then we looked around. We had a whole album, and you know, for me, it was like it was an extension of my artistic practice. Like, so I didn't view it like I love all sorts of music, like ranging from obviously rap, but you know, from alternative and punk rock and you know, all of that. So it was like it made sense that what you hear in December '99 doesn't sound like anything else because I just wasn't, I'm not tuned into anything that's pop, you know. I looked at it like art, you know, which was I think was a double-edged sword because people had because he has such a cult following, you know, people want him to be the 1998 most Def, you know, that has the beats from Jay Dilla, you know what I'm saying? And I don't compare, I would never compare myself to a Jay Dilla or any of these great producers because they're great at what they do. You know, I happen to be like I think I'm decent as a person who can make music, but my main thing is visual art and it's always been visual art. So that was the experience. I was glad I got to perform at the Tonight Show. You know, I think we made a important piece of music, and you know, now that I'm internationally known as a visual artist, I think the people, whether if I'm here or not, you know, they'll one day revisit that and be like, "You remember when you know Ferrari made an album?" You know, it's like I think that one day that'll be more appreciated than it was when it came out. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, definitely. I gotta salute you on that project. Like you said, it was different, but it's refreshing. And man, I could still like the production was top notch, is what I want to say, man. So I
Thank
appreciate
you.
the
I
work that
mean,
y'all did for that project, and it's gonna stand the test of time. And like you say, you gonna keep being great, keep creating, but people are always gonna want to go back to that project. So that's dope that
yeah, it
you could
was
take it
it
to
was
that
a
level,
special moment in time, you know. 2016, you know, we almost it's gonna be 10 years soon. Like, damn, that's crazy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now I gotta ask you about now I had seen this on your website. Now you done did art exhibits in Paris and Switzerland and Italy. I myself, I never, been to something like that. You see it in the movies and on TV and stuff, but for you to actually have your work in there, what is that like? And also doing it, like you say, internationally, going to different continents and having people, come check out your work.
Man, I worked my ass off. That's you know what I'm saying. Like, I can't hold you. Uh, I was rejected a lot. I'm talking about a healthy person, a healthy minded person would probably give up. You know what I'm saying? Because I got out of the music industry. I was like, I'm gonna make art, you know, and I figured the only way to be taken seriously is to to make the art and do it consistently and large and dedicate my life to it. And that's what I did, you know. So it took a lot for me to break through. And when I broke through, you know, obviously the way the art world works is when something is unfamiliar, first thing that they do is they compare it to something that is familiar. So, you know, I was being compared to Basquiat, Mary Cassette, Monet, everybody, you know, and which gets on an artist's nerve because you like I'm an individual, you know. So I had to get through that. It was almost like a hazing period, and I started to see my success, and you know, my financial situation got better. It seemed like overnight, you know, within a year I was, you know, yeah, I was like really making a lot of money, which to me, you know, I never been materialistic, per se. I like nice stuff, but the financial freedom allowed me to expand my ideas and to have less stress because being a struggling artist, like, that actually takes away from your work because you're trying to survive. So once that was survival was no longer an issue, uh I was able to focus more on the work, and the work, I haven't stopped. It's been 5 years. I've been going back to back shows, art fairs, Art Basel, Freeze, uh, South Korea, Switzerland. It's just, you know what I mean? So I have I'm represented by Massimo De Carlo, which is based out of Milan in Italy. They also have Paris, London, Hong Kong, Beijing. So, um, you know, it's amazing, but the only way that I could describe it is that I'm so close to it and I'm so in it. It's hard for me to gauge and just sit back and say, man, you know what, Ferrari, this is amazing. There's been times where I'm in Paris and I'm just like, fuck. I'm like, man, wow, look at what the fuck you doing, But I'm always looking towards the future, So just like right now, I have a show coming up in New York. This will be my first solo show in New York, which is crazy because it's almost like the prodigal son has returned. Like, I feel a way about this show because, like, I never got love. Like, the places where you from, you never get no love. You know what I'm saying? I never got love from New York. I never got love in Chicago. So I'm like, can I please get some love from, what I'm saying, hometown? And but I'm excited about it. It's just like, you spend 8 or 9 months making these large works or whatever works there are, and then you put them out into the world, and then they become immortalized, you know and they then belong to the world, you know
Man, that's dope. That is so dope. I mean,
yeah,
because people dream of, we're gonna go to Paris one day, we're gonna go to Italy one day, but to be able to do what you love to do, get
yeah,
paid, travel the world, and you making people happy it seems like it's just so amazing and rewarding. And also, like you say, this painting took 8 or 9 months. The average person don't even understand that. They see the finished product. I want to have it. Let me take it home. He be like, I've been working
right,
on this all year. You know what I'm saying? So I
right.
gotta, salute you on that.
Yeah, and it
Mhm.
gets extremely complicated. The more the value of my work goes up, the more expectations there are. I have sold out every show that I've ever done. Knock on wood. It's like Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying? Like Michael Jordan, not comparing myself to Mike. Yes, I am. I'm comparing myself to Michael Jordan because I've sold out every show that I've ever done. But that means that there's a microscope on any little mistake. Like when Jordan got the ball stole from him that time, it was like, I can't believe he got the ball stolen. Like, look at all the times he didn't get the ball stolen. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm being realistic. I'm at a point in my career where, like, I'm still relatively young, especially for a visual artist. And I'm like, how many, do I have 40 more years in me to do this? Uh and I'm giving myself grace because I know it's like I've been a overachiever, but I can't expect too much from myself because I'll burn out, you know? And the market doesn't care. Like, they just know that, oh, Ferrari is a hot artist right now. We need more and more work. But it's up to me to turn down some of these opportunities to put myself first. Because if I'm not able to perform in the way that people expect me to perform, then I'm gonna be a detriment to myself, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Self care is necessary. Self preservation comes first. We're about 30 minutes in, so I guess my last question I want to ask you. You had mentioned you got an exhibit coming up in New York. Do you have any other exhibits or projects? If the viewers want to follow you and check out your work, you got a website. Just
Yeah.
let them know what's going on.
Yeah, so you can follow me at Ferrari Sheppard. That's FerrariSheppard on Instagram. And I have my website, ferrarisheppard.com, or you can go to Massimo DiCarlo. You can just Google me. But yeah, so the shows, I have the New York show, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm gonna do an artist talk with Angelina Jolie. Uh, she's opened up a oh, I shouldn't be saying this because then people might show up. When is this being? No, whatever. I don't want. We got security, but whatever, you know. So I won't say where that's gonna be, but then after that show, then I have Hong Kong. So I'm gonna do a solo in Hong Kong. Uh, and then all the usual suspects: Art Basel, Freeze LA. I mean, not Freeze LA, Freeze wherever. Wherever the gallery tells me they need some work for. But so you guys should look for that. And yeah, man, I hope I inspire you. And to all the kids out there, I want you to know that anything is possible. Like, for sure, you're looking at somebody who comes from the housing projects, and I didn't know if I would have a chance or not. But just never give up. Never give up, and don't listen to any of the haters.
Man, I'm definitely inspired, King. Like I say, I'm still processing a lot of the information that you shared with
Mhm.
me and the viewers. It's definitely been an honor. Keep up the great work. I definitely look forward to what you have coming in the future. I know you got a lot more things that you got to do, so that's what's up, man. I want to thank the
Thank
viewers for
you.
tuning in. It's been a phenomenal episode of Taye Speaks. So until next time, family. Peace.
Peace.